Hey everyone, here it's Josh and Adam from 2 Degrees of Separation, and today we're going to talk about a topic, a rather controversial topic, one that's very close to me, to my heart.
Is it controversial?
It totally is in a lot of ways, for sure.
I mean, I think it's debated, but I don't know if it's
debated, and it's controversial because
I don't
it's
think
debated.
it's controversial.
It is. Let's see how long we can go without actually mentioning the topic.
Without actually, yeah.
No, this is already too long. I feel bad for these people. Basically, we're going to talk about what most people would call just generally Bigfoot, or what I like to call Sasquatch, amongst other people. And you've got many of them. Your Sasquatch, obviously Bigfoot's the other name. What do you have? Your Yeren, your Yowie, the Yeti, the Almas. The orang pendek is kind of a small, it's like a mini version. It's the dwarf version of it over there in Indonesia. Adam's going to try to test my skill on this, but he doesn't know what he's in for. Also, the skunk ape was one, the Florida skunk ape. You got the Ohio grassman. All just various names for the same thing. And what that is pretty much, in my opinion, and I'm going to try to convince Adam here, or at least hear his ridiculous opposing arguments, is that it's a large ape. Okay? I don't go very fantastical or spiritual with it. I understand some of the spiritual aspects of it, especially from a lot of First Nations myths and legends, or their lore, basically. You know what I mean? Their history. I don't go that far with it. I don't associate a lot of it when people see UFO sightings with it. UFOs will be a different topic we'll definitely talk about.
Right.
But, occasionally, as if, say, aliens put Sasquatches here, right? You know what I mean? There have been odd occasions where people have seen a Sasquatch and it's corresponded with lights in the sky at the time, you know what I mean? Odd UFOs. But again, UFOs, we're just going to clarify here, are unidentified flying objects. We're not saying they're, ET crafts yet. Again, that's another discussion we're going to have, though.
So you don't think that they're associated with
Not so much. Not with the more spiritual, paranormal aspect of it, or the extraterrestrial aspect. In this case, it's a large ape, and it's a very elusive one. It's a very smart one, and we have very elusive and very smart creatures that already exist today. We have large apes and very smart apes that exist as well, and that did before. Case in point, I'll bring up pictures. Well, it's a podcast, so we're going to have pictures up here. One of the biggest ones is skull fragments that they found, or especially like jaw fragments and teeth and some skull, of what is an extinct, quote-unquote, ape known as Gigantopithecus. I believe it died out, I think, anywhere from 100,000 to 300,000 years ago. But Gigantopithecus, or Gigantopithecus blacki, was a large ape. Adam's laughing at the blackie part of it. He finds it hilarious. Because he's a horrible person, but it just means the Sasquatch that ape had a huge dong is all it means. Okay, that's what that means.
Josh,
but
no, we're gonna cut that out.
No, we're not. But no, okay.
All the three listeners that we had.
But anyway, so Gigantopithecus, we'll just leave it at that. A very large ape that did exist, but from the fossil record, it did exist. And by its, I'm going to bring this up on my phone to show Adam while I talk, but just by the measurements by the skull fragments and jaw fragments that they can kind of put together, the measurements of it are just huge, just enormous. And you look at it and think, this is kind of what a Sasquatch looks like, a modern-day Sasquatch. But again, this is based off the head, and that's showing that it has a huge skull and jaw, right? So naturally, you think the body would be big. You're not going to have. It's not going to be a bobblehead, right?
Yeah.
So here's sort of a reconstruction.
Okay.
Of the size it would look like based on those skull and jaw fragments. Basically, it'd be quite large, right? This is what it would look like today. You'd assume. Yeah. That's what people claim they see.
And that one was found in China, though?
Yes, and that brings me to my next point, though, about it going to other areas. Because if it's already in China, then you understand, okay, the Yeren is sort of what's in China, and going over with your Yeti and Yowie over there, like the Himalayas or whatever, in Tibet and Russia. I think they have the Alma in Russia, that's Mongolia. But it kind of makes sense, right? It can branch out easily there.
Yeah.
But then to get over to North America, where there are a ton of sightings, especially on the west coast of areas where we are, basically, potentially from good weather, it could have possibly crossed that land bridge, the Russia-Alaska land bridge, which people have used, which animals have used, because it freezes over enough to migrate over. So that may have happened at some point. And again, this could have been anywhere from 100,000 to 300,000 years ago. They migrated over.
Yeah.
And so that's what people are seeing today, where again, I'm going with it's a large ape. And orangutans are big and strong creatures. Gorillas even bigger and stronger, okay? Yeah. So this is just another bigger and stronger one.
So for you, it's not any kind of mythical, supernatural kind of thing.
I want to say no.
They're not
immortal.
immortal.
No, I wouldn't say immortal. There are various stories of people shooting them, finding blood, hearing screams, and you know what I mean, things like that. So I wouldn't say immortal, but I almost want to give it some supernatural powers, being the sort of mythological creature that it is. Like attribute just little things, right? As if it can, you can look at it. You look away for a second, look back to see, like, am I seeing this? And it's gone. As if it can just, it was that elusive,
It's a leprechaun? Is that
right? But not like it just disappeared. But as if it has these abilities, right? But also, some people do argue, because animals do have this, there's a shrimp. I'm going to try to put the name up here, but there's a type of shrimp that has incredible eyesight. I think it's more of a shrimp than a lobster, but ridiculous eyesight. Scientists have looked into it for a while. I believe it can even see, your sort of infrared spectrum or whatever, even the ultraviolet light, that sort of spectrum that we can't see at all with our really basic eyes.
Yeah.
So people have argued that it can potentially see infrared light, for example, and that's why you don't catch it on as many trail cams, we'll say, people leaving that out in the woods, because it may see a beam of something going across. So whether it knows what it is or probably not, it may think, that's odd, I'm not going to walk through it, or I don't know, so I'll avoid it, right? I'll walk around till the beam hits, it's hitting a tree or gone, so it's not going to trip it. It's a theory people have. Obviously, it may seem far-fetched to people, but I mean, again, animals do have these abilities, and we just know other animals too that have fantastic eyesight, especially at night and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm not attributing like any real supernatural powers to it, but just a very smart and elusive large ape that could easily have food sources in the various areas that it's seen, especially when it comes to, say, in North America, and when we are on the West Coast, right? We have good weather a lot of the year here.
Yeah.
So it doesn't maybe have to stock up on food like a bear to hibernate. It doesn't have to do that, like, it can be going out all year for food if it wants. And there are countless stories, though, Adam, too. I'll give you them, too. So that's the other thing, though. You've got so many stories. Yes, that's all anecdotal stuff, right? You have so many stories. But of people seeing the same thing in similar parts of the world for centuries, like old accounts, too, from, say, 200 years ago, before this was popular, people seeing it that didn't believe it. They'd be like, oh, it's the... excuse my language here, but sort of like, oh, it's the crazy Indians, you know what I mean? Their stories and stuff like that, because they talked about it. But then they would see it, too, and think... okay, that was weird. What the hell was that? What was yelling at us? What was, what did we see running away and standing up? What was throwing rocks at us? All these things. So it got into the more mainstream with the Patterson-Gimlin footage, that classic, Bigfoot walk thing. But these stories have been around for hundreds of years. A lot with the natives of areas. And I don't mean like First Nations, I just mean people who were in those areas first and everything. Or people who are native to an area there. Before, people like us, the white man, came over, and he just mocked this stuff. But then we started seeing it too.
Okay, I guess my thing with it is, it doesn't make sense how it hasn't been fully discovered yet. How can it be so...
that, yeah.
First of all, I'm really impressed that you actually named, like, he didn't even have his phone out when he named all those in the very beginning.
I don't need my phone for this.
He just remembered all those ridiculous made-up names.
I think no one talks to me at work anymore. That's all I talk about there.
Yeah, that explains it. But, how could it be, like, so if it is, well, yeah, North America on the West Coast here, I think it does have more of a reputation.
Yeah.
But how could it go undiscovered, like officially, like, undiscovered for so long?
It is very hard, but even, actually, it was a great episode with Les Stroud, Survivor Man. He did Bigfoot series because he's interested in it, and he's had 2 odd encounters where, even one in Alaska, he has no explanation for what he was hearing aside from... I'm hearing like an ape of some kind up here hooting and hollering at me. It blows his mind. But in one of his videos anyway, he's showing, the vast, Pacific Northwest. And it's like, if you look at it on a map, I'll put maps up here to show it would be easy for something or someone to just go out in those woods and just hide. Because people aren't there every day. They're not just wandering around the city going through dumpsters. And it's like, yeah, I'm amazed nobody's seen one. But we just find garbage all taken out in footprints, right? This is ridiculous. But out there, Adam, it's just huge. You've even been to the spots around here, right? They're just this vast wilderness in so many places, especially up here in Canada.
But over hundreds of years, though,
apparently people have seen
hard to believe.
No, but we've also just only more recently had from the 40s, 50s, 60s in terms of cameras and stuff. I think even the Patterson-Gimlin film was the first big one that was in the 60s.
Yeah.
That was like 67 or something, or 65, I forget. But And so that was one of the biggest ones, right? But again, people weren't always just walking around with their cell phone. Now they are, and we get more sightings or encounters that we can see to try to corroborate with the video, whether it's just, okay, this is a joke, it's a guy in a suit, one of their friends, or they misidentified it, it's a bear, totally plausible.
Yeah.
So it just, it's hard, but something that also wants to remain unseen or undetected can go out of its way just to avoid people, though. That's what I mean. Not as if it knows we're bad, but just if it sees us and hears us, because obviously, you're probably going to, or an animal in the woods is probably going to hear or see you before you see or hear it.
Yeah.
It may try to back off because it doesn't know what you are. It just doesn't want to get near you, have you get close to it. So it'll try to push off.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 questions. So do you think that they're like super intelligent then? And also, how many of them do you think there are then? And how are they...
There's just one. Duh. It's a Bigfoot. It's a Sasquatch. You need a breeding population, so there has to be quite a few in each area, right?
But then
because they can't all migrate ever. No, but
if there's quite a few, then I don't know how...
breeding population. We know inbreeding happens a lot with animals too, and everything like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With small groups and stuff. So that can happen. But just small pockets of them in various places, and obviously you'd assume some would wander or migrate to various areas, and then they could join up with another group or mate there. That's fine. But so I can't give you a number. I can just speculate, but I can't really give you a number here. But there would be small pockets or small groups of them. Plus, a lot of people say they almost live in families, right? So you picture small groups and families are scattered across. North America, which is even across the United States-Canada border is how long is that? That's like 6,000 kilometers, maybe 5,000 to 6,000 kilometers. So just you picture that length and just little families, even 500 kilometers apart, they would never see each other. But just you have enough. And your second question was
intelligence.
Oh, right. Actually, I think that was your first question.
Yeah.
I don't know how intelligent I'd say, but I'd say very intelligent. Apes right now are super intelligent. I mean, being able to teach them sign language to talk to them blows my mind.
Yeah, so do you think
and a lot of self-recognition that they can do, in terms of watching themselves on camera or mirrors or something like that. Yeah. They can kind of begin to slowly recognize that's them, You put a mark on an orangutan's face, and the more it looks in the mirror, it gets it and realizes when I touch it, it comes off. This is on me, actually. This is another orangutan I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And we know chimps use tools as well. I think gorillas do too, but we know they've made makeshift tools and everything.
No, it's crazy. That stuff really creeps me out.
Right. But, yeah, looks so. You know what looks amazing? Everyone go look at it, or maybe I'll put a clip. But chimpanzee smoking cigarettes looks just hilarious, scary, and just mind blowing because it seems like a person.
Yeah.
They do it just like a person. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy.
But no, but I would say they're rather intelligent because they can.
They would have to be.
Yeah.
And to purposely kind of avoid contact for so long, for hundreds of years.
Right.
It seems. I'm not convinced yet.
That's
I think you have good arguments, but I'm just.
Oh, but yours are better? I don't think so.
It just doesn't.
Well, they have avoided contact to an extent, but there are a lot of other stories, like First Nation stories they have of them invading, in a sense, coming to camp, or the whole story is about Sasquatches stealing women or even children and stuff, but not being that scared to come into contact with people. Now maybe that's changed over the years, which you could argue that it has, obviously. That's why we maybe see less, right? You don't have a Sasquatch raid your home and take your dog or whatever, but also people do actually lose pets to them, supposedly, from encounters in cabins out in the woods and stuff.
Yeah.
But
that's the thing with all of the people going out and hunting in the forest in BC, biologists going out, even the forestry industry.
Yeah.
With the satellites we have now, Google Maps, all that stuff.
It's harder with the satellite than you think. I know what you mean. It's harder than satellite than you think, because I would totally do that. I'd want to just scour all the satellite images and see if you find something that stands out, but you won't get enough detail. The same way if you look at a picture of a city from the satellite image, you're not seeing people there.
Well,
you maybe see cars, but just try to find a brown dot in a sea of green and brown dots
that's the
on
thing,
a map
with the tree cover,
trees.
I guess,
the canopy's huge, right?
But
no, we are doing more. They're doing more with drones now. They're trying to find them with drones and FLIR images. Yeah. I forget. It wasn't the Olympus project. Damn it. Anyway, they were trying to raise money for this big thing, which was a huge FLIR, the forward-looking infrared. You know what I mean? FLIR.
Okay.
Like that tells the body temperature stuff.
Oh, yeah.
A big project for that to go look in the woods for them, like fly the drones above and look for heat signatures that would match a Sasquatch and stuff, and kind of scour a big area. But you do get those encounters from people like that, from people who spend time in the woods. You know, if they're like going out there fishing or canoeing, you have interesting accounts from hunters, and I think some of the hunters ones are more interesting because the Sasquatches may feel that they're more of a threat, as if they look like they have a weapon, right? They don't maybe know what the gun does, but they look like they have a weapon or something. Because there have been some kind of spooky stories from hunters who either just choose not to hunt anymore, or like they say, I'm not going back to the area to hunt again. Not after what I saw, what I experienced. You can't get me to go back there with my shotgun. It's not going to happen.
I mean, that's interesting, but I don't know. I totally believe when it comes to underwater life, I totally believe there's
underwater
so much...
Sasquatch.
No. I'm not Sasquatch, but like I think there's so much stuff in the depths of the ocean that we still haven't found.
Well, we compare what our moon and the ocean a lot, right? Like how much we know about the surface of the moon compared to what we know about our oceans, which is just vastly different, right? Like we know so much more about what's up there than what's down
totally.
there. Yeah.
And I would believe that there's some freaking freaky stuff down there.
Oh god, yeah.
Like just nightmare stuff. Yeah, I totally believe
definitely.
it. But and I know that there are some islands out there, like, you know, they're still finding creatures today, even on land, on some of these uninhabited islands, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, a creature living in British Columbia that we still haven't discovered.
Right, but like across, say, North America, we'll say in this case. And then you might be like, yeah, even more so all across North America. Like, I get what you mean, but it's just there are so many huge pockets. Like, if you were to compile, I want to say, if you took the map and put all the cities together at the bottom of the map building up and just saw how much room you were left with of just say mountains, woods, lakes.
There's a lot of uninhabited
so much more. I almost want to argue that it'd be say 10% cities, 90% uninhabited, and I think that's an overestimate.
That's probably
for the city part.
Yeah, I could believe it.
So I think that's why though you just don't see it that much, and they're not going to come to big places if they're noticing big lights, big sounds. It's just I don't know if they'd go there. Again, being smart, but just also wanting to avoid protection or even from fear, right? If you're an animal, you maybe don't want to go towards some of these areas. Some do, they get used to it, right? Deer, squirrels, they get very used to people and everything like that. So they'll wander wherever and do whatever they want, but
I don't know.
I totally understand where you're coming from.
I hope you're right. I hope it does exist. No, because that would be cool.
It is. It does exist.
And I think if they do,
it cannot exist.
And I think if they, well, I would say that about aliens, and I think we'll have to do a whole video on aliens.
But that's different. If we're talking about have they been here or just do they exist in general?
I think yes and yes.
Okay, yeah.
But we'll do a topic on
for sure.
But I think if they do exist, they have to be like, I mean, nowhere near as smart as us, but they have to be smarter than like
the average bear.
Smarter than the average bear for sure, but smarter than like the gorillas and monkeys that we're studying.
I would think so.
Because for them to avoid being like fully discovered for this long, I think that it has to be like absolutely intentional.
For sure. Now,
and there has to be a certain amount of actual like cognitive ability there.
I agree. There could even be a cultural aspect, like passing it on to the younger ones, like as if almost like to avoid this somehow. Like we don't know how they would try to communicate it, but you know what I mean. But like people have again with certain people who lived in the area for long periods of time. Then the white man came. I think they had with the silverback gorillas, among some other ones lately. The natives of the area knew they were all there. Told people and talked to the white man when he came over and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they didn't believe it.
Yeah.
But then they started going in there, venturing, and be like, "Shit! Like they are here. This is real. They're not just making up stories about these silverback gorillas, these apes living in here. This is actually legitimate." So we'll see. I mean, we still have plenty of time. I want to find one so badly. I want to go out in the woods and see one. That's why I go out there. I just want to see it, film it, then peace out, and nothing happened to me. But we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. I'm hoping one day they just decide, you know what, what if one day one just walks into a Tim Hortons?
That'd be fantastic.
And he's like, you know what, I've been seeing the commercials for so long, but I finally want to try one of these double.
I thought it'd be like, I've been finding this shit out here in my woods for the last 20 years. What the hell is it? Get out of my sight.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this one went on longer than I thought it would, but anyway, hope you guys found it enlightening. Or if we just entertained you and you thought it was, ridiculous, that's okay too. Happy to help. So
that's probably it.
Yeah. All right. Josh and Adam here signing off. We'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks for listening.
See ya.